everybody, welcome back to my workshop and welcome back to my garage. This is my next installment on my great guitar build-off scratch build for my Elysium Firehawk. What we're going to be covering in the video today is applying the finish coats, both the finish on the top of the guitar, which I used more of a gloss finish, and then the finish on the back of the guitar, which I used more of a satin matte finish. I just want to give a big thank you to everybody that's been tuning into the channel and following the build and leaving the comments below. I really appreciate it. So please click like and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. I've got a lot of things planned for the future on what's going to be on the channel, so I'm really looking forward to getting that out there, and I'm really looking forward to building my subscriber base. But again, thank you very much. Also, take a look at the other competitors in the Great Guitar Build-Off. There's some fabulous guitars being built out there. They really deserve a look to see what you think about those. Some great builders with some great ideas. So let's get rolling. Alright, it's time for me to start doing some finish work on the guitar. What I've done so far, and I did this off camera because it's pretty boring, is I've got the whole guitar sanded down to 320. Front, back, neck, sides, everything is down to 320. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to dye the back of the guitar a little bit darker brown, because what I want to have is, right now I've got this distinction between the neck and the heel of the body. What I want to do is kind of blend that in a little bit and kind of give it that faded burst, or that faded bit as it comes down into the shaft of the neck. So I'm going to be staining the back of the guitar, and I'm going to use Angelos leather dyes and go through that. And then once that's dry, of course I'll sand it back a little bit, steel wool, make sure everything's good, and then I'll be starting to apply the finish coats to the guitar. Alright, so I do want to be careful from this point forward when I'm handling the guitar, just because, like I said, I have sanded it down to 320, the whole instrument, front and back. I'm going to stain the back. As you can see, I've got my binding taped off on the body. I want to try and keep the stain off the body, so that's going to help a little bit. I've got that burnished down really nice with some paint or with some tape. And what I'm going to do first, I've done a couple test pieces. I'm going to go with russet first. It's like a lighter than a light brown, and I'm going to see how that does, if that blends this joint in right here, because this is the area I'm worried about. I want to have a smoother flow to that in looks. So hopefully this brown, this russet, when I put it on the back and then trail it up into the neck, it's going to take care of that transition for me. So I'm hoping, my hope is that this is just going to flow in a little bit. And if I don't like it after the russet, then I can go back with a little bit darker brown, because I do have a light brown that I think will work good with this as well. I don't want to make it too brown because of the fact that I'm going with the natural walnut finish on the top. So if it goes too brown, then it's just going to end up being, I want a little bit of contrast there. And what I'll do for this neck joint as well is I'll wash that in with a little bit of the neutral, and that'll help blend it in. That is giving that mahogany just a really nice look, though. I'm liking the way that's looking. Now to let that dry for a few hours, we'll come back and we'll hit it with some steel wool, and we'll see how it looks. So I had a slight change of plans yesterday. After I dyed the body and dyed this neck heel, I got to looking at it, and I really liked the way that it looked on that flame maple. So I made the decision to just go ahead and dye the whole back of the guitar in that russet color. And then what I'm going to do to achieve what I want to on the neck, when I go to sand it and level everything off before I apply the finish coats, I'm going to sand the neck a little bit to kind of give it those wear looks right in this area here. And that way it'll kind of blend and give me that effect that I wanted at the heel, and it'll also give me that effect at the headstock, and I think that'll be a nice match. But I really like the way this color came out. It pops really well on that flame maple. See if you can see that. It really makes that pop. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to apply a second coat to just darken it up just a little bit, and then we'll hang it up to dry before we come back and use steel wool on it to get everything knocked back, level, make sure we got a nice smooth finish, and we'll start applying our finish after that. I really like the way that brought out that richness in that mahogany. I think that's going to look really nice once I get this neck sanded back. All right, we're going to give this 12 hours or so to dry. And once that's done, we'll come back, we'll hit it with some steel wool, and then we'll be ready to start applying our finish coats. In preparation for starting to put the finish on the body, I just want to chamfer the holes a little bit because this finish will tend to build up there. And when you sand it, it tends to sand away a little bit of the finish, or it's easier to burn through the finish, but by putting this chamfer there, that won't happen. Not doing a lot, just a little bit. So I'm ready to go ahead and start applying finish to the top of the body. This is going to get a two-part finish. The top is going to get true oil, and then the back, because I want the top to have a little bit of a glossier finish, and then the back is going to get a hard wax oil. I want to put a good amount of oil on here because this walnut is going to soak up just a ton of oil to start filling those pores. So as you can see, I've masked off around the edge of the guitar, and I'm just going to start applying this oil to the body. I've masked off so the oil doesn't drip down the side and get on the side of the guitar where I want just the true oil finish, or where I'm going to put the hard wax oil. And plus it'll help keep it off the binding a little bit. This top is probably going to need at least 5 or 6 coats of oil on it to get it to where I need it to be. And what I'm going to do with this first coat is I'm just going to put a good heavy coat on for the first coat. Then let that dry, and then follow up with some steel wool. Varnish it a little bit, then just keep applying coats, and eventually I'm going to start to get a built-up finish on this, which is what I'm going to be looking for, because I want to go with a nice gloss finish. And I'm just keeping rubbing this in until it builds, until it's just not going to take any more oil. It's finally starting to seep in and starting to build a little bit on top, so I think I've got about enough on it for the first coat. Just get this rubbed in and worked in. So after 4 coats of true oil, this is starting to look really, really nice. So what I'm going to do now is hit it with some triple aught steel wool, smooth that down just a little bit, and then start applying a few more coats of true oil. As you can see, the front is looking really good. I've got 10 coats of true oil on the front and on the headstock, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that cure for about 2 weeks, and then I'll do a level sand and polish on that. For the back, what I did was I stained the back with the Angelus Russet dye. And as you can see, I kind of lightened it up here on the shaft area of the neck to kind of give it that faded look in the middle, and then darken as it goes to the headstock and darken as it goes to the body. This dye's actually been on for about 4 or 5 days. I just left it as I was finishing the front of the guitar. So it's good and dry. I hit it with some steel wool and got everything smoothed off and just made sure all the top of the dye was off, and the guitar is nice and smooth. So now what I'm going to start doing is doing some hard wax oil finish on this. So I'll get the camera set up and we'll get rolling. So what I'm using is just a hard wax oil, and this is a satin finish, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a liberal amount of this on the guitar. You want to make sure you stir this stuff up real good because it does have solids in it, and the solids tend to sink to the bottom. So you want to make sure that you keep it mixed up. And then I'm just going to apply this with wipe it in with the cloth. I'll leave about 12 to 24 hours in between coats, and I'll be putting several coats on this. And this is going to be more of a satin finish. And you just rub this in, and then as it dries, you just buff off the excess. I really like the way it makes that flame maple come out on that neck. Looks really good. And this makes for a very durable finish. And as you can see, it's really soaking in. Gonna put a little bit more on the neck. That's a good first coat. All right, this has had a good opportunity to soak in, so now I'm just gonna take and buff off the excess. All right, my first coat of hard wax oil has had a good chance to dry for a good amount of time. I've let it dry for 24 hours now. So I'm going to go ahead and install the second coat, and this will be the final coat. You don't need a lot of this. It soaks in really well. So just going to put this final coat on it, and then I'll let it sit for probably 3 days before I do anything else with it, because you want it to really get a chance to cure. I really like this as a finish. It gives a nice satin color to it, or a nice satin sheen to it. It's real easy to apply, and if I have to make a repair, it'll be super easy to make that repair, because basically with this, it's more along the lines of just putting it on, letting it sit for a while, and then buff it off. Buff off the excess after it has a chance to sink into the wood. A second coat really isn't necessary. I could have probably just gotten by with one single coat, but I just decided to do two. Why not? A little bit extra protection on it is always a good thing. Nice coat of oil on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that sit in for a while, and then I'll come back and buff it off. All right, so there we go. Finish is buffed back. It's got a good 2 coats now of hard wax oil installed on it. It's coming out really good. So as you can see, we've made some really good progress on this guitar. So my plan is to give it 2 weeks before I do my level sand and polish on the guitar top. So in between then, that gives me an opportunity to get my level crown and polish done on my frets. Also gives me an opportunity to get the electronics done, build the pickups. That way after the 2-week period passes, I can do the level sand and polish on the top of the guitar and move forward with final assembly. So that's going to wrap up this video. I'm really making a lot of progress on it now. It's getting close to the end. You can actually see the finish line coming around the corner for this guitar. I'm looking forward to getting it finished. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. Please, again, click like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And until next time, take care.